Well, the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic is particularly difficult for folks with lower incomes. Many low-income wage earners have lost their jobs, and if eligible for unemployment, often it's insufficient to meet their monthly expenses. Evictions and wage garnishment has been suspended during the pandemic by order of the governor. But advocates worry that once that suspension ends, low-income citizens will be especially vulnerable. Joining us is Dory Streit, Executive Director of Legal Aid Service of Northeastern Minnesota. And Dory, this is really a very important topic. Thank you so much for being here with us today. Now, you provide really a variety of legal aid services for low income. What is the biggest concern that perhaps the agency and yourself has arising from this pandemic?
Sure. So at this time, we're concerned that folks are not seeking legal assistance, assuming that because many entities are closed down or not functioning as fully operational, people are assuming that the courts are not operating as much, and that's not true. And so we want to make sure that the communities are still getting the legal advice and services that they need, especially because so much has changed. It's complicated to navigate how to access the courts during this time, and so Legal Aid Service of Northeastern Minnesota, along with our other legal aid partners across the state, are working to make sure that people have clear information and access to that information.
So as a result of that worry, have you had less people contacting legal aid for services?
We have seen a decline in the number of people calling legal aid, and that's statewide. And we really do attribute that to the unfortunate thought that at this time we don't need to seek help. For example, there's the moratorium on evictions, and so people are thinking, okay, well, I'm not going to get evicted right now, so I don't need to do anything. But that's not true. We need to make sure people are getting the advice and information they need now so they can make the right choices now to protect themselves for what happens when the moratorium is lifted and when they find themselves potentially facing eviction.
If the moratorium goes on for several months, eventually will they still owe back pay as well?
Yes, I mean it is. You still need to pay rent to your landlord,
obligated.
Right? Your landlord in this moratorium is not going to evict you. They can't file an eviction action in court. It's basically a freeze, and so there are so many things happening with tenants and landlords and their relationships right now. Legal aid and the staff attorneys and staff at the organization can give advice about what you should be doing right now and even help resolve any potential conflicts between landlords and tenants so that we can avoid eviction altogether.
So Dory, what then is the mission of legal aid?
The mission of legal aid is to provide compassionate and quality legal services to low-income individuals in northeastern Minnesota. So when you think about legal aid is the opposite of what you see with public defense. So public defenders are providing representation in criminal cases. Legal aid is providing representation in civil cases. So everything but criminal essentially falls in civil. Now it's different in the sense that people have a right to counsel, a constitutional right to counsel in criminal cases.
So you do have attorneys?
We have attorneys, yep. But you don't have a right to an attorney in your civil matters. That's where legal aid comes in. We are a nonprofit regional cohesive law firm representing individuals in all of these types of cases: family cases, housing cases, government benefits, employment, elder law, the gamut.
So you're really a big agency. You're not only Duluth.
We're not only Duluth. No, we provide services to the 11 counties in northeastern Minnesota. So that's the entire service area of this station, and then some.
Who's qualified then to use legal aid services?
So we assess eligibility by income, and so we're looking at household income based on 200% of the federal poverty guidelines. We always encourage people to call and not assume that you're eligible or not, because there's a number of exceptions, and we have funding from a number of different sources that will allow for us to provide service to many individuals.
Yeah. Can you also then, and we're taking a look at the hotline, there is a hotline number, people can call you really any day of the week?
We're open Monday through Friday. And as you see there are days and times specifically that one can call the hotline. And so when people call, they'll need to go through an intake process. But then the hotline has been implemented by LASNM so that we can provide folks with answers quickly. In light of this COVID pandemic, this was an action that our organization took so that we can truly quickly meet the needs of folks because many people are in crisis right now.
I was just going to ask you about that. You know, during a pandemic such as this, they want answers right now, so you can move fairly fast.
We can, and we have set up our structure to be able to help people in a very quick way. And so we really are trying to push out information about this hotline. And so any viewers, if you're listening and you know that there's anyone who might have a legal question, please encourage them to call legal aid.
So Dory, how do people then apply for legal aid service?
During that phone call, we have an intake process, and so our wonderful staff will go through a series of questions with the caller to make sure they're income eligible, to make sure there's no conflicts of interest, because we are bound by those professional rules of professional responsibility, and also to make sure that people that are calling are within our service area. So we have some preliminary screening questions, and then after that, we're able to connect folks with an attorney.
So it's not all over the phone? Do you actually some in-person contact eventually?
Yes, and so right now we've moved to work in a very remote type of setting. All of our staff are working out of their homes, but we are appearing in court with folks in the types of cases that our courts are hearing in person right now. Those are very limited, but the courts are hearing a number of cases remotely. And so it's been a very interesting process, and I have to really commend the courts on their partnership with us to communicate how they're continuing to hear cases in spite of the fact that they're limited in what they can do right now.
So then how big an impact has COVID-19 had on legal aid?
It has had a significant impact on legal aid in that it's changed the way that we operate. I'm not sure that things will ever quite be the same again because of COVID. We're looking at how can we have court in a remote way? How can we represent our clients in a remote way? How can we try and find technology to leverage to ensure that we can have face-to-face conversations with our clients so it doesn't have to just be on the phone? It has truly made an impact on our ability to deliver services, but we're really working hard to find solutions.
You mentioned early on some of the services that you provide. Maybe you can go through that with a little more complexity. Just what services are there that folks might be able to call and say, I'm having an issue here?
Yeah. So if somebody calls and they're having a legal issue, take for example, somebody has a family law issue. They're calling because they're not feeling safe in their home. We do help a number of individuals who have issues with domestic violence in their homes. So say somebody calls, and we're able to not only that day give them advice from an attorney, that is if they're eligible for services, but we are able to then represent them in their cases. So say that individual needs to file an order for protection, or that individual needs to file for a divorce or custody action, or they're trying to get benefits so that they can secure housing for them and their children, or they need to obtain government benefits to ensure they have economic security as they move forward. Those are all types of issues that we are versed in, that legal aid are experts in poverty law.
Dory, have you noticed an uptick in domestic violence during this coronavirus? Unfortunately,
we've seen that across the nation. The type of stressors that are impacting families with their inability to leave the home, the need for distance learning, the need to both juggle working from home and losing jobs and sense of security, all of these things have created an environment where we're seeing an uptick in domestic violence.
Okay, maybe in the next 30 seconds, we're running out of time here, you can again tell us exactly who's eligible, how they can get a hold of you.
Absolutely. So as you saw above, please make sure you look at the phone number. But if you are living in northeastern Minnesota and you think you have a legal issue, please call us. We'll determine if you're eligible for services, but it's so important for folks to get information now so that you're making the right choices to protect yourselves and your safety, your security, and your stability during this pandemic.
And again, you're open Monday through Friday?
Monday through Friday. The hotline is 9 to noon, and then again from 1 to 4.
Very valuable service. You've been around for a long time. Hope you stay around for a lot longer.
Thanks so much.
Thank you. Dory Streit, Executive Director, Legal Aid of Northeastern Minnesota. Thank you, Dory.
Thanks for having me.